Hi everyone, it's Sasha and Susie from Women's Fight News. Have we recovered, Susie, from a big weekend of boxing?
Oh, it was so much fun, wasn't it? The volume of fights and the trying to watch two fights at once at home was quite bloody.
Yeah, part of me was gutted because obviously I was at Nottingham, so obviously I'll miss the Manchester one. Initially, I was going to try and get it on the app, the BT app, and watch, and I was like, I'm just going to overwhelm myself, and then they overlapped anyway. But I saw loads of people on Instagram stories and Twitter where they've got one on the TV, one on the laptop. It's like that's just living your best life, isn't it?
Yeah, that was like me. I literally had the laptop up, the TV on, then at one point I had my phone because the laptop was playing out.
Yeah. It reminds me of the other month, and there was 3 on, because I remember standing at my desk and I had the TV, iPad, and laptop, and they've all got boxing on. And you love it, but at the same time, it was very overwhelming. But lucky enough, no one overlapped that night. Whereas they did, I think, a little bit, didn't they, for this one? But I suppose we can't ask Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn to consider us too when putting the schedule out, but it would have been preferred.
It's just annoying that both female fights overlapped.
Yeah.
The 4 on, and why did they both have to be on at the...
Yeah.
They didn't overlap, like you said.
Yeah, because I think when Terry's finished, I was scanning through Twitter, and I was I wonder if Amanda started. I think she was about halfway through at that point. But it was a good night of boxing.
Yeah.
So overlap or not, this is why we've got, catch up. I'm only been able to watch the highlights so far of Amanda and Raven, but it's on my to-do list tomorrow to watch the full fights. Yeah. But we're going to start with Rhiannon Dixon. So obviously she was at Matchroom at Nottingham. She was on second on. I think she come on about 6 p.m. in the end, I think. And I would rate it as a high performance from Rhiannon when you look at kind of where she is in her career.
Yeah.
But I haven't watched any post-fight interviews. I've not had time, but I don't know if she was happy with it or not, because it was her opponent was just super awkward, and you could tell she's been in there with top level girls. She knew what to do to spoil Rhiannon's work at times. But the last 2 rounds were unbelievable from Rhiannon Dixon, and I hope the next fight she starts how she finished. She did start well, but a bit slow at times, but needed. I think she wasn't greedy. She didn't try for too much, because her opponent, she was ready. She come for a fight and she come to win. Rhiannon kind of took her time the first few rounds. I thought landed some lovely counters. Maybe wasn't as active as we're used to seeing her, but I had a win in every round. So she done exactly what she needed to do against another tough opponent. I'm loving these. Rhiannon does not mess around. She's getting in there with experienced girls, and it's paying off, I think.
Yeah. Like you say, she's a very experienced fighter. Yes, she's lost the last few, but the caliber of opponents she's faced, and she turned up in shape. Like a lot of these journeymen, journeywomen turn up out of shape. He didn't. Edina came in, looked in shape, it was very game.
Yeah, she was.
To win every round against her, what more can you ask for?
Yeah, it was solid. And she was I think she was awkward at times, and she kept going in really low with the head. It was stressing me out. But Rhiannon done quite well to just keep her distance at times. But because she was going in really at this horrible angle with her head, Edina, it was making it difficult for Rhiannon at times to kind of unleash combos. But when you got to rounds 5 and 6, Edina started to tire. Rhiannon kind of pounced on that. So she done exactly what she needed to do. For me, it was another great performance. I raved about Rhiannon's last performance because, again, I thought it was just a top-level opponent. And it was scrappy at times, but it's what she needed to do to win. It can't always look pretty and perfect. And I like these girls that Rhiannon's facing. And I know some of the Olympians, especially, have faced criticism with the level of opponents. And I think Rhiannon's went more in the deep end, even though she's not got the same experience. And actually, I think some of the other maybe Olympians or former Team GBs could look at Rhiannon's opponents and maybe get them next, because I think they're a higher level than maybe other ones that we're seeing at the minute, which is a credit to Rhiannon Dixon as well.
And like you said, I love the fact she's going on under the radar as well. She's
Love that.
slowly, quietly making her way through the vision, and then, you know, as soon as she sort of hits that next sort of level and gets more seen, she's more than ready for it.
Yeah, she's got the perfect balance. I think we spoke about it last week, where she's signed to Matchroom, which is great. She's getting on the shows now. She had a bit of a layoff with an injury, but she's getting out as frequent as she can possibly, I suppose. She's got a great team behind her, Crawler, everyone else, but she's still under the radar. But it's a perfect balance, like you just said, and she will be one where she'll like explode on the scene and people will call her like an overnight success and completely ignore how hard she's probably worked over the years. But, you know, the fact that she's come from white collar to how well she performs already. I think she's 6-0, is she now?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that was 6-0. So she's looking good. Obviously, I got to interview her at the press conference and I genuinely laughed out loud throughout the whole, I don't know, 6-8 minutes, however long it was. She's such a character. She's so funny. And I feel like she's got a good head on her shoulders. Like, she's obviously taking the game very seriously, but I don't feel like she puts too much pressure on herself where it's like, I've got to win this fight because I need a title next. I think it's very taking it all in a stride and it's definitely working for her.
Yeah, and she is still working. Made a comment about that she's still working as a pharmacist at the same time, so she's not full time at the future. We might see her go full time, but at the moment she's still juggling the two, and still getting these results.
Yeah, it's incredible, really, because I did see on her Instagram she was like pharmacist by day and boxer by night, and it's such a contrast, isn't it? And how she fits it in, I don't know. But like you say, if she ever does, you know, decides to go full time, yeah, it's like she'd hit that new level. But I suppose where she's at the minute, if she enjoys her like day job, what she's doing now is great, and eventually she will go full time because she's one of them that you'd have to tip her being world level. Surely, you know, she looks to me a world level fighter in the future. But so I like the way she's taken her career. And she doesn't see, when I spoke to her, she doesn't seem to be in a massive rush at all, which is what we've seen quite a lot. I feel we're seeing a few fighters maybe rush a little bit quick. So I'm enjoying her journey. I think she's hoping to get back out in December. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, look forward to that.
So then obviously I then had to sit there and I've been to Nottingham Arena many times. I used to live there. I used to go and watch the ice hockey there all the time. And I forgot how cold it is. So I was freezing all night and I was just desperate for Hannah Rankin and Terri Harper to come on. I couldn't, like, the other fights just couldn't finish quick enough. No disrespect to any of them. They were fine fights. Probably wasn't the best show I've ever been to. But Jesus, it was so cold. I couldn't believe it. And the arena, I was getting a bit worried. So the arena wasn't super busy, which I think was expected when Lee Wood pulled out. But then it's time for Terri Harper to walk out. The atmosphere was unreal. Like, I forget how big of a ticket seller I think Terri is.
Yeah.
Because it's not that she doesn't need to be, but because she's, I suppose, Terri Harper, she's always going to get on these big shows. I don't know. You just kind of forget, like, the pressure's on, I suppose, to still sell tickets. But the atmosphere was unreal. But do you know what I forgot would happen? Terri walks out, mad cheers, everyone's behind her, it's packed, it was unreal. Hannah Rankin walks out to boos.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And I forgot that had happened.
I hate that, though. Do you know what I mean? I get it's part of the entertainment and the pantomime of it, but
I've never heard Hannah Rankin be booed. But in all fairness to the crowd, I think she was booed for all of like 5 seconds, and then it went very nice again and very respectful. But the one of my favorite bits of that fight is when they're in the ring and David Diamante's announcing them and they're just getting up in each other's faces. And I'm watching the referee and I can see like he's on edge and he's like, do I step in? Do I just let them be? And that was super funny. But what did you think of the fight?
It was amazing. Do you know, I love this fight. For me, it was probably the most entertaining fight of Saturday night for me.
Yeah, 100%.
Out of the, you know, the four that, of all main women's fights. it was just, I couldn't believe it. To be honest, that first round, you know, I was expecting a great, you know, fight, but I was blown away in that first round.
Yeah.
I didn't expect Terri. I mean, I know Terri's a huge talent, but I didn't expect it to come out so strong and so amazing in that first round, and the first few rounds, in fact.
Yeah.
Just how accurate she was, how strong she looked. She was just, I think it shocked Hannah, to be honest, how accurate she was. And then when she gave Hannah that cut and everything, it was just, that was that kind of tip in the fight, wasn't it? And I just, it was amazing. I do feel that Terri slowed down as the rounds went on towards the end of the fight. I felt like she was strongest in the first few of the rounds, but it's the first time she's up at this weight against a high level opponent. It was an amazing performance.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'm sitting there, obviously, at media, and you know, you sit around other people at media, and people were convinced Hannah Rankin would win.
Really?
And I saw, you know, the week on Twitter, and everyone kept saying about the size. I'm a massive fan of Hannah Rankin, massive fan of Noel Callan as well. I think what they've done is unbelievable. But I always thought Terri would win this fight. I just think for quite a few reasons, and I was just really surprised. Like, someone put on Twitter, like, "Oh, Terri looks too big at this weight," and I was like, "Jesus, she just can't win because she was too small at the other weight. Now she's too big." It's like, I don't know what she's meant to do. Yeah, you just can't win. But I thought she suited it. I thought she looked the healthiest we've probably seen her in years. But yeah, everyone was convinced Hannah would win because of the size, and that's just. That's what confused me. I thought, if you can say Hannah's going to win, of course. Like, I wouldn't have been shocked if Hannah would win. She's a credible, you know, she's a two-time world champion. Like, that doesn't happen accidental. But it was the size never come into play for me. I think Terri would suit that weight. She's proved that she does. But she started so accurate, and I think within the first minute, I can't remember what eye it was for Hannah, but it was just red.
Yeah.
Straight away. And then was it the second round she got the cut?
First round. It was,
but it was early on, and it was a cut in that horrendous place as well.
And she said she couldn't see.
It was just, it's in that horrendous place where it's just streaming. Credit to Hannah, though. From where I've sat, like, I've not watched it back on TV, but from where I sat watching it live, it didn't look like it bothered Hannah. Now, I know it would have, but she didn't let it on that it was bothering her. I think sometimes you get boxers that dab at it a lot, and it shows that they're getting stressed out with it. I thought she at least played that it was fine. I know it wouldn't have been, but I mean, that's a nightmare. You know, you've got a cut early on. It's in a horrendous place. To me, it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the fight. I think Terri was always going to win that fight. What Terri said she would do in the build-up, she done on that night. She did hit and move. I thought her footwork was the best we've seen it, because I think that for me, it wasn't the size. That was the question of the footwork there. When she's moved up, would she keep it? And because obviously we know Terri, who loves to just loop around on the ropes. She never wants to be in the middle of the ring. It terrifies me. She's always on the back foot, but that's where she's best. And, you know, the slipping and the rolling, the change of the angles, it made it difficult for Hannah to be able to plant and land. She just didn't have that opportunity at any point. So
I felt like it was the best we've seen Terri Harper, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. She looked, to me, it was like, forget everything that's happened in between. You got Thander's fight to this fight. It was like the step up from there, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, this is what she was always meant to go on to. And here you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was so impressed with that Thander's fight.
And
yet, I'm even more impressed with this fight.
Yeah, this is definitely the best version of Terri Harper, I'd say, that we've seen. And I don't know if Hannah and Noel maybe might have underestimated it, because they're in a difficult position, because no one knows how Terri is going to be. You know, I know 4 weights up, even though it's probably more likely 3, but from where she won a world title, it's 4 weights up. So it's a difficult position they're in to prep, because you don't know what version of Terri Harper you're getting. But it was like Terri Harper 2.0. It was definitely a better version.
Yeah.
which, considering she's a former world champion, to get even better. You're not doing too bad. And obviously she's only 25, so you imagine she's not even close to her peak yet. That's quite scary when you think about it. Like, if you give her, where's she going to be in 3 years' time? For me, I think she's top 5 pound for pound in the future. I think it's hard to say who would be who's number one, because you just don't know what happens in between. But for me, she's top 5 pound for pound. And I think she will, I don't know, lightweight, I don't know, but from super light to super welter, I think she could win a lot of titles.
I mean, for me, back when she was top of super feather, she was top 10 pound for pound for me, even then.
She wasn't on the list, though.
But for me,
100%.
I felt like she deserved a spot back then.
Yeah.
So, and there's me now saying this is the best version of Terri I've seen. Yeah, it can only go up, can't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, like I say, it definitely was the best version. And then what I loved was, I feel like she's like a different person in general. I feel like she thoroughly enjoyed fight week. She really showed her personality. I think I think a lot of boxers don't particularly like doing all the media stuff, and you can't blame them. I wouldn't like to do any of it. I think Terri's one of them, but Katie doesn't like it. Like a lot of them, I don't think Amanda Serrano likes it either. Like a lot of the top girls don't particularly like doing it. Some thrive on it. Like Clarissa's great at it, Michaela Mayer, but some just don't enjoy it. Yeah. But I feel like Terri really did enjoy it this week, and she was having fun with it, and she had her biscuits and a cup of tea at the press conference, and I thought she really enjoyed it, and it that led into the ring. She was smiling towards the end of it, and then a bit of showboating in the last round, but she could do that because she was well up on the scorecards, and I just thought she thoroughly enjoyed it. I know she kept saying through fight week she's got a new appreciation for the sport, and I think that showed. And that shows how dangerous she's going to be now. That she's got that. So very, very excited for her. Where do you think Hannah Rankin goes now?
Well, big nights. It's still a lot of big, because obviously she's 2-time world champion.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see some more big nights coming through for her. I'm just trying to think really whether. Where do I see her next? I don't know, because at the moment in this division, we're going to see Undisputed at some point, aren't we? Because there's Natasha Jonas fighting Marie Kerr. If that happens, suddenly it's going to be Undisputed.
Has that been rumoured?
Yeah. So then it will be a fight then between Natasha Jonas and Terri Harper for Undisputed. That is it, isn't it?
Yeah.
If I'm missing a belt, no,
that's it.
But then I know that Terri wants Natasha next, so whichever way we look at it, we're going to get Undisputed, relatively soon, 3 of them. So I don't see her fitting into this division just yet, unless further on down the line, looking at belts, obviously there are opponents to fight. I mean, you've got Mary Spencer up and coming, those kind of fights she could have. But if she's looking to get a belt again, otherwise it's going up or down in weight.
But I think she's in a tricky position now.
It's not
Yeah, I think she's in a really funny position, because I don't know if she would win a world title at this weight again, in all honesty, because Terri comfortably beat her. I think that's fair to say. I think Tasha would also beat her. I think they'll be the two that end up with the belts, and then you've got Undisputed. So I don't think she could move down. I don't know. Could you see her moving down to welterweight?
I mean, she did it once, didn't she? Because that's the plan before she went for these belts. The plan had been to establish herself at welterweight. So it's possible she goes back down.
Yeah,
but there's not a lot going on at welterweight at the moment with the belt being tied up.
Well, the belt shouldn't be tied up. Jessica McCaskill's she's in a dream situation. She's going to be fighting for Undisputed at super light and gets to keep all of her belts if she loses. What a dream come true. I mean, if Hannah can make if Hannah can make welterweight, that's an interesting fight between her and Jessica. But would she get that fight? Because I know Jessica's got mandatories at that weight, and she's in a tough situation because I don't know if she's now able to kind of walk in and just get to a world title fight. I think she is going to have to rebuild a little bit. I think she might possibly have to pick a weight and rebuild and have a couple of fights and work for that opportunity. I don't think she's now in a position, not just her, but promotional wise and stuff like that. It's different when you've got Eddie Hearn because he'll just buy the belts and buy. Do you know what I mean? She's in a slightly different position. So I think it's tough. I don't know if she'll get the opportunity to fight up for a world title again. Not because of her, but because of the politics of boxing.
Yeah.
I don't know if we will see Hannah as a 3-time world champion because of everything, all the other factors. But
well, with Hannah, she's always ready to go abroad to fight. Fight anyone. I mean, she went to, when she tried to establish herself at welterweight before, she went to South Africa to fight.
Yes.
So I just think we'll see some more of that, really. She'll just go wherever the fights are, wherever the opportunities are.
Yeah. That's what I hope. Like, even if it's like I say, it's just boxing's such a funny sport that there's so much that goes into it that I don't know. But we'll see her fight again, and we'll probably see her in some huge fights because fair play, she didn't have to take this fight. No. She could have defended this title against someone else. She didn't have to take it against Tasha, and she didn't have to take it against Terri Harper. Fair play, because I don't know many people who would have done that in her position.
And, like you say, she could have fought, someone not of their caliber and still be, headlining arenas in Scotland. Because don't forget, she's got the headline, So
I think I'd quite like her to go to America and do a couple of fights there again. She's got a good fan base in America. I know they took this fight over the Tasha fight because the fact that DAZN can be streamed in America and they've got sponsorships there. So, and she's got a great fan base in America. So I'd quite like to see them. I don't know who to fight, or what weight, but I'd like to see her do some fights there and continue earning some good money. And just, I mean, Hannah's always in great fights, world title or not. You want to watch Hannah Rankin in a fight, don't you?
And she's just such a great ambassador for the sport.
Yeah, such a good person. She has time for everyone. She has time for absolutely everyone. So, I'm not sure. She's in a funny position, but, she's at all the scans come back clear. I'm sure she'll rest up and she'll come again. And I can't wait to see her, regardless of who she fights. Can't wait. But now we've got Terri Harper, who is a 2-weight world champion. And we all know she's called out for Tasha Jonas, but you said Tasha Jonas,
Marie-Eve Dicaire. Yeah.
Who, by the way, Eddie Hearn cannot pronounce her name properly.
Oh, what's he say?
I can't even repeat it because it was just letters all mumbled up.
I have heard it pronounced differently before, so it could be
we're right. It's Marie Dicaire. I promise you, we're definitely right.
I've heard other people like in America saying it different. On the build-up when she fought Clarissa Shields.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't even remember how they said it.
Maybe Eddie might be right.
Maybe he's been that or something. But I've heard rumours. Again, it could be just rumours. But who knows? I mean, what a fight that we mean if because Marie Dicaire has been a long-standing champion in the IBF, she got beaten by Clarissa Shields, so she's an excellent champion.
Yeah.
If Natasha Jonas does beat her and we see an undisputed fight between her and Terri Harper, oh my gosh.
That's a super fight, isn't it? That, you're putting that very close to the level of Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano. You're putting that very close to Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall in my eyes.
Huge fight. I mean, in some ways, it was almost like it would have been meant to be the rematch to wait for this moment of time.
Yeah, and it's just worked out better. And I was thinking before, like, I know Terri wants Tasha next, and I want to see that fight probably more than near enough any other fight in boxing. But then I was like, I want that fight to be undisputed. And then you've got the risk, haven't you? And I was thinking, well, if one of them, for instance, Terri maybe faces a mandatory or a voluntary mandatory or whatever, a voluntary defense, sorry, and Tasha, for instance, fights Marie Dicaire, or vice versa, I'm not bothered.
Yeah.
then we're fighting for undisputed. But then obviously you're risking it then.
Yeah.
Because something can go wrong and we lose that mega fight. So obviously there's a risk involved, but no reward without risk. And imagine that fight for undisputed. So that headline. So someone said to me, if that fight happens, would it be on like a Liam Smith undercard? I was like, no, thank you. I love Liam Smith, by the way. I'm like a massive fan of his, but no, thank you. I want that to headline.
It has to like that one. But whose promotion would it be on?
So we spoke about this the other week, didn't we? Like, is this fight easy to make? Like, I don't know, like, who has it, or do they do it together? Ben Shalom keeps saying, and he is proven, even though I don't think he goes about things the right way all the time, that he is willing to work with other promoters. He has proven that. Eddie Hearn's proven that with Alicia Baumgardner. Yeah. So I think that could be arranged. I want to know, where would it go? Because they're both big home fighters, big sellers. Where would it go?
It'd be such a shame to go to one or the other, because it's such a massive advantage for one fighter or the other. So it'd have to be somewhere neutral. But then you're thinking, would they go for that? Because it's all about money as well at the end of the day. So go either Liverpool or sort of Doncaster area.
Yeah.
So what would happen? I mean, I personally, in terms of the actual fight, I'd like it to be somewhere neutral, because I want to see both fighters get their opportunity and not have that advantage.
It's tough though, isn't it? Because I think if it's to headline, I think it would have to be in one of their home cities, or whether Terry goes to Sheffield or Nottingham. I mean, Nottingham, I suppose she's still the home fighter in Nottingham as well. It's close enough to her. And then obviously you've got Liverpool for Tasha.
I just can't see either fighter wanting to give in to that.
This is where it's tough, because I know with Terry and Hannah, like, who's the A side? And it was Terri Harper. I know Hannah's come with the belt, but the A side in theory is the home fighter on the show and all of that. Like, I don't know who would have the argument of being the A side in that fight, especially if we're looking at maybe not the next fight, the fight after, and they're fighting for undisputed. I don't know who is. Well, like, I know who I would pick as the A side, but then you're just picking your favorite, aren't you? But like, who is actually the A side?
Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it? So I think it definitely get made though, because they're both, they're both them type of fighters that just want to be in big fights.
They both want.
Yeah, like, definitely. So I think that would happen, but I think there's a lot of like, who and where, like, we don't know.
Sasha, who do you see winning that fight?
Terri Harper. I do. I'd see. You know what? Tash Jonas is unbelievable, isn't she? She's a fantastic fighter. I think she suits also being at this weight. I think in hindsight, she probably looks back and goes, "I wish I would have moved up sooner."
Yeah.
It's incredible that she was fighting at super featherweight against Terri Harper, and by the way, was incredible. I still to this day have that fight a draw, but it was very controversial. And that's the storyline I can't wait for. The story is going to be great, but we all know I rate Terri Harper, and I think based on the last performances, I think Terry's footwork's better. I think she's a lot quicker. I know Tasha won, and she won very comfortably in the last fight, but I think it took a while for her feet to get going, and I thought she was getting hit, and it wasn't the end of the world because not big punches, but she was hitting in a little bit static at times, and you couldn't afford to do that against Terri Harper because her powers moved up with her. But I see it being better than the first fight. Yeah, and that's hard because that first fight was unbelievable. One of the favorite fights that I've had to watch on TV because obviously it was behind closed doors. I see it being even better, but I just see Terry winning. What about you?
It's hard. For me, it's very, at the moment in time, for me, it's very 50-50.
Yeah.
Having seen Terry on the weekend, like, that was phenomenal. Though, if Terry did those first few rounds throughout the whole fight, I reckon with, and I'd go for Terry, definitely. And I think she will, as she establishes herself at this weight and carries on, I think she's going to get better and better at this weight. So in some ways, it would be quite good if she has another one or two fights before they have this mega fight. And as she started so strong, whereas Tasha Jonas tends to start off a little bit slower.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then gets stronger. So it's just like who gets the better of who at what point in the fight, you know?
Yeah.
If Terri comes out strong and dominates straight away, it could throw the fight her way.
And they both rocked each other in their first fight, and it's kind of at this weight, it's like, well, who gets there first? It's more dangerous now. But that first fight for me, I loved it. You know, I had it because I always argue about this one because people said it was a robbery. A close fight can't be a robbery. Whether you think Tasha won, whether you think Terri won, or whether you think it was a draw, it can't be a robbery because it was too close.
Exactly.
And I had it 4-4 going into the 9th. I think I had the 9th could have went either way. And I had Terri winning the 10th. So for me, it was either a draw or Terri wins. If Tasha was the one, you can't call it a robbery because it was just that close. And they're the fights you want to watch, and that's what we want to see again.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be even better. They've both got better as time's gone on. So it's probably a blessing that the immediate rematch didn't happen, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't, at the moment in time, I can see either of them winning at the moment.
Yeah. I see that being a huge fight. I hope it's not the next one because I just feel like we could have time. Like if that happened in 6-9 months' time, you know, we can start the narrative for that, and it's such a good story as well because of the first fight and because of what's happened since.
Yeah.
Since that fight, they both lost as well, but then they've kind of flipped their careers and and now it's unbelievable. You would never have thought that when they fought at super featherweight behind closed doors at fight camp, they'd now both be super welterweight world champions. That's unreal.
But I'm with you on it. I don't want it next. I want to see them both establish themselves more in this weight before they face each other.
Yeah, well, I want at least one more fight, I think. And then, because I want this fight to be like, it has to headline for me. It's going to be one of the super fights. So, you know, I feel like we'd do it a disservice if it happened quickly and it happened in December and it was on the undercard or something.
Yeah,
it's too good. And the payday they both get would be unreal, which is what they both deserve as well. That's what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it? Belts are important, but it's about the money as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think next year, undisputed, biggest female boxing, you know, home fighters of all time, biggest fight. Yeah, it's gonna be huge. And like you say, you need that time to build it up. You want the promotion. It's a big, you know, it's another big fight for women's boxing. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So keep our fingers crossed for that one. So that was the Matchroom card. And like I said, I enjoyed them 2 fights, definitely. Apart from being cold, I enjoyed my night. Now, of course, you were also watching at home.
Yeah.
The BT card.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like I said, I've only seen the highlights so far. I thought Raven Chapman went into this fight with so much pressure. Whether she felt it or not, she probably didn't because she's like cool as a cucumber. But I think she went into this fight with a shit ton of pressure. And she just delivered, didn't she?
She did. She must have done. Like you say, whether she comes across calm or whatever, she had a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
That was what was it, a 4th fight?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So like to go in this mega pay-per-view BT card when she's the star of Frank One's, you know, only star fighter, and the fact that everybody's put pressure on her to knock her opponents out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guilty of that as well because it's exciting having a female fighter who's a heavy hitter, potential for knockouts. It's exciting. Can't help but be carried away with all that.
Yeah.
And want to see that. So we're all like, yeah, here's Raven. I'm gone in 60 seconds, Raven.
Yeah. She's going to knock her out.
But considering, like you said, you had all that pressure on her, you know, I thought her performance was excellent. This is a fighter who was a massive step up. Some people said it was a step too far. It really wasn't. Who's, you know, she gave Ellie Scottney, who's extremely talented, a hard time.
Yeah.
We saw what she did to Stevie Levy.
Yeah.
This is a tough opponent. You know, this former world champion for a reason. So to go in and do a performance like that, I thought was excellent. You could tell though she was going for the knockout all the time. She was hitting hard. She was going for those body shots. That some of those body shots were sickening. And I think at times she's putting too much pressure on herself for that knockout, and needed to sort of like take a step back almost. But it's a fourth fight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she's just going to learn from it. And what a great learning! I mean, how many rounds has she so far in those 3 fights? She did hardly any rounds. Suddenly, she didn't gas. She kept going at a work rate. There's so many positives in the fight. It was I think she did the job right.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, from what I've seen on the highlights, and then obviously I was reading like your like round by round Twitter updates of the people's, and she, yeah, probably I think people say maybe at times could have tried too hard for the knockout, but I think that's just something you learn over time. Also, like it's hard, isn't it? Like one, that's a style. Like it's difficult. You don't want to take that away from her because that's her style. She is a come forward big puncher. You don't want it to start like tippy tapping. So it's probably that balance, I suppose. But you know, Georgina Guanini is a top level opponent, and to get a fairly convincing win in your fourth fight, because she put Ellie Scottney under immense amount of pressure through that fight and made it, you know, Ellie won, but it was very, very tight. And Ellie, but you saw how much Ellie learnt from that fight, because the next time out, Ellie was like unbelievable. So imagine how much also Raven will learn.
Yeah.
So fair play to Georgina Guanini, because you know, she doesn't have to actually be taking these fights. She can go off and be winning a lot of other girls in these divisions. She doesn't have to be taking these. But I got the impression based on Georgina's Instagram that, which is the right thing, by the way, but like she went thinking like she's the A side and went to win. And that's what I love. Like she's not going as the B side. I'm just getting paid and, you know, I'm got to go through a prospect. She's going thinking, well, you know, I'm fighting someone inexperienced. I'm experienced. And she expected to win that fight, which shows how well Raven done again, because she's fighting someone not only experienced, former world champion, but someone who wants to go and win. Yeah. And I know that sounds mad, but there's a lot of girls out there whose job is to fight these prospects, not there to win. They're there to survive and then move on to the next fight. So very, very exciting. What happened in the second round? I've seen the clip of it and I'm not happy.
It appears to be a missed knockdown.
Yeah.
Because Georgina appeared to touch the glove to the ground, which would cause it to be a knockdown. But it was so in the moment, the referee missed that. And then when obviously looking back on the the highlights, you could see it happened, but obviously it didn't get counted at the time, so it didn't get counted. But that's another reason that Raven could have gone in so hard after that for the knockout, because she could feel it was that close to that round.
Yeah.
That's when she went, you know, she thought, yeah, I'm this close. She was checking that probably then the rest of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw it on the highlights and I was like, I don't know how that was missed. And I know she spoke about it after and she obviously thought it was a knockdown and said she kind of took a step back and then I think she had to like readjust herself, and mentally that's a bit of a pain in the arse, isn't it? Because you're thinking she's about to get like an 8 count and then next thing you're back in it. So it's a bit frustrating, but obviously she handled it well. But what else was I going to say about that fight? There was something else that I loved based on the highlights. Can't remember now. Cannot remember for the life of me. It'll come back to me. But that was the thing. When I'd spoke to Steffi Bull prior, he wanted it to go the 8 rounds because he said, you know, it can be difficult to gauge where she's at. So I think he would have been quite happy with her, you know, going the distance. And I think it is important because obviously she'd finished the last fight so quick. If she would have got a second round knockdown, for instance, as great as that is and as entertaining as it is, I always find it a nightmare, your first few fights. I think it's great when you're established and you're in Amanda Serrano and you're 45 fights in. I know she didn't get the knockdown in this one, but if you're then knocking out girls, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think when you're 3-0, it's tough because you don't know what your tank's like.
Yeah. And then she knows, it's great. I think I scored it when I haven't watched it again, but live watching it, I scored it 7-1 to Raven, which was actually a lot more to the judges saw it. But yeah, I felt that Raven, yeah, pretty much won every single round. And to be honest, even the one I gave to Georgina was probably a 50-50 type round.
Yeah, sometimes that happens, so and you're like, I'm gonna give them one. I'm not
Yeah,
giving them anything yet. I'm gonna give them something.
yeah. But
Um,
won to Georgina. But yeah, I felt like she very convincingly won. And she looked great. So sky's the limit for Raven. It's exciting to see.
yeah, so she's won her first title. What's next for her then? Because she's obviously in the featherweight division. She suits being there. She looks very, very good for the division. She's strong, isn't she? But convincingly makes weight. Like, that's not an issue. Um, Loads of prospects in the featherweight division, and then obviously you've got Amanda Serrano like sitting at the top, who we'll talk about. Where, like, what type of fights do you want to see Raven in next?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because like you say, you've either got, it's such a divide. We've got middle ground. She kind of needs to be the middle ground now, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Made that step up now. She needs Gunami like type opponents now, doesn't she? We don't want to see a step back.
Yeah.
But it's tricky because who out there is like Georgina?
Could she fight Sarah, who Amanda Serrano beat, or is that a step up too quick again?
I'd like to see that fight.
Could that be next, or could that be one after, maybe like one more than Sarah?
I think probably I'd like to see another fight before that. Because although Amanda convincingly won against her and won, in my opinion, every round, she is a champion again for a reason.
Yeah.
And coming up against a pound for pound great. she made it, but she's a pound for pound great. So I would think it's probably a bit of a step, too much of a step up at the moment. But that's what I mean about that middle ground. It'd be nice to have a few middle ground type fights before looking for that world title shot, and where that world title shot's going to come from, because obviously it's tied up with Amanda Serrano at the moment and Erica Cruz, who she's probably going to fight next. And then otherwise it's looking to other weights.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Like, I don't know who. Yeah, I mean, I think with Georgina Guinea is a fantastic opponent, that proved, but she's not a natural featherweight. So, like you've just said, get another Guinini, but who's a natural featherweight.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna say what I'd like to see, which will never happen. More likely pigs to fly.
Oh, I know who you're gonna say. I think
Sky Nicholson.
Yeah.
I'd love that fight. I literally would love that fight. I want it now. I want it in 2 years, and I want it 5 years, and then however many years after. That's what I want. All day. All day, every day I want that fight, but not going to happen.
Never.
But it should. It should happen. But another like a true featherweight like Guinini. And then possibly maybe someone like Sarah next, I think. But yeah, I mean, she's still fresh, isn't she, Raven? She's only 4-0 now. For me, I'm sure I've said this loads, and I don't like comparing one fighter to the other. I don't think, I'm never a fan of that. Having said that, she is very similar to Amanda Serrano in the sense of we talk about her power, but that's not it. It isn't just like that's all she's got. She is a full boxer. She's got sound technique. She's fast, great hand speed, good footwork, great power, good endurance, good person in and out the ring as well, which always helps. So you see here again, surely she'll be floating top 5 pound for pound in a few years to come. Surely.
I really rate Raven. I think she's going straight to the top, to be honest. Definitely. Yeah. But again, that's another reason I don't want it to be pushed too quickly up the. She's young. She doesn't need to be pushed straight to the world level immediately, does she? It'd be nice to see her, like I say, establish herself with some more fights and.
Like Sky Nicholson for the Commonwealth.
I mean, it's. I like the fact they're talking about Amanda Serrano matchup in a year's time and all that, but let's not push her too quickly. Let's enjoy her fights on her way up now.
Yeah. We'll talk. We're going to move on to Amanda now, but will that fight ever happen? Will we see Amanda Serrano, Raven Chapman ever enter the ring as opponents?
I mean, it sounds nice. It'd be quite nice, but they're just completely different points in their careers, aren't they? So even if it does happen, it'll be Raven's sort of coming up to a peak, whereas Amanda's sort of at the end of her career. So it's not a true reflection, even if they do fight, I think.
Yeah. I like them both too much. I don't want to see it. I do because I know, it. No, I don't. I actually don't want to see it. Part of me does because I know, I think Raven would love that fight, and of course
Yeah.
she would. Who wouldn't? And that shows the character Raven, who doesn't want to fight pound for pound best. But I don't want to see it. One, I like them too much. I genuinely couldn't pick a winner. But like you've just said, the polar opposite in the career. You've got one at the start, and when I say Amanda's at the end, we'll talk about that in a minute. She's not at the end because she looks tired.
No.
And she's at the end. She's at the end because she's had 46 fights or something.
Yeah.
She's not got another 5 years in her because she doesn't need to have 5 years left in her because she's achieved everything. So we'll move on to her, Amanda Serrano. She obviously defeated Sarah. She's unified featherweight champion. There is one belt to go, but we'll talk about that in a minute because that gets me excited. What did you think of that performance?
Well, for me, she won every round. I know that the commentators and obviously the judges saw it slightly differently, but I thought she convincingly won every round. I can't give it to Sarah on any of the rounds, to be honest. I just didn't feel like she gave enough. Like Amanda gave that bit more every round. I mean, there were times when Sarah did hit Amanda. She did catch her. But I felt like it's because Amanda knew she could be hit.
Yeah.
She came forward and she didn't even blink. She just kept coming forward. And I think she just thought, to me, it felt like Amanda was such a level above that it was easy for her. So therefore she, when you're up against someone tough, you become tougher.
Yeah.
When you're not up against someone as tough, you kind of don't put in as perhaps to 100%. So I felt like she knew she could walk, she didn't need to avoid those hits. She could get hit and she could still do enough to win the rounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I say, I've seen the highlights. She looked like she was in cruise control. Yeah. So I wouldn't say it was Amanda Serrano's best performance. Does not have to be if you win. In theory, she's won every round, hasn't she? Regardless of the scorecards were weird because I actually thought for Terri and Hannah's fight, the scorecards didn't quite reflect how I had it. So it was all a bit strange. But Katie Taylor's very similar. There's certain fights that I wouldn't rave about Katie's performance, but she's literally won every round.
Yeah.
So you only do what you have to do. You're not going to go above and beyond, are you? Because camp must have been quite hard. I remember voice noting you and saying camp must have been quite hard for Amanda because she'd completed camp. Bearing in mind, I think her and Katie both went back to the gym about 2 days after their fights, which is nuts, but each to their own. She's probably trained ever since. Peaked at that fight in August, I think. Then the show was cancelled, and now she's fought again. So it's a bit of a funny position she's in. I know Sarah's a world champion, but she's just not Amanda Serrano.
No.
And Amanda's at the position where if she's not in a big super fight, and Katie Taylor, I think, is the same. If they're not in these big super fights, you put yourself in cruise control, you get the win, you move on to the next one. Simple, isn't it? And that's what she done. Last spell boxing, you don't get paid for overtime. Very true. But it is true, isn't it? You literally just do what you need to do. You go home and then you move on to the next fight.
Yeah.
Which is it going to be Erica? Is she going to step up to the plate? Is she?
Did you see the Instagram from Erica?
Yeah, because she called out her mandatory the other week, and I think she owes us all an apology. No boxer calls out their mandatory. She owes everyone an apology for that. Being silly. I still can't get over that.
Yeah. Well, she's rectified that now, hasn't she? So
I should think so. She should be embarrassed. But no, in all fairness, so I read Erica Cruz, she's a good champion. Yes. I think she probably sat there that night and thought, I want a piece of this. There's Amanda Serrano in the UK, co-main on a huge box office event, getting paid a shit ton of money. Yeah. And Erica's thinking, I've just called out my mandatory. What am I thinking? come on, there's just no business sense in that. So I think she's looked and thought, right, I want a piece of that. And this is the only fight Erica can have to get it to that magnitude at this moment in time.
Yeah. So hopefully we see that next.
I'd like it at the end of this year.
Yeah, I'd like it soon. Oh, definitely. I feel like, yeah, be great. Amanda's had this fight delayed, so it'd be nice to see her out again quite quickly, really.
Yeah. And Amanda like trains all the time. I don't even think she like takes herself on holiday after a fight. Like I think she just goes back to the gym.
Yeah.
So, she'll be ready. I think she's keen. Her dream is to become undisputed champion, and it's not happened. And not for lack of trying, just politics and boxing's just so shocking at times. And if it wasn't for Jake Paul, it wouldn't have happened. So people don't like him, but if it wasn't for Jake Paul, she'd be still earning $30,000 on a show and not getting the respect she deserves.
I love the support he shows her. Like, he doesn't have to do
videos.
Yeah. You say, oh, I love him. He looks like a little boy, like he's so excited for the fight, and there he is jumping up and down watching her.
That's the love you want, isn't it?
He's just so excited for her and in the journey with her. I think that's lovely. And also, like, promoting her before. He's there on a punch bag, knowing that's going to get some views, like talking about Amanda. And I think he's smart. He knows that brings in, the attention for Amanda.
Yeah.
But, I love that because he's not doing it. He's doing it purely for the love of wanting to get Amanda that spot that she deserves. And I think that's really nice.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. And so she obviously fought in the UK. No one was expecting that. Now, there's a reason behind that. That's not just a random, like, oh, we're going to just take you to rainy Manchester. So, I'm very convinced, 99% sure we're going to see the Katie Taylor rematch, which will be in the UK. I'm very convinced at that.
I think you're right.
But prior to that, the Erica fight, I think, will happen first. I think that could be in the UK.
Yeah, it could be. I think Amanda is said now. I think the thing is, when the fighters experience the UK, the fans fighting here, they get a love of it, don't they?
Yeah.
Because Amanda's already saying, I love the fans over.
Yeah.
Obviously, she loves New York and a fan base there. That was huge. But everyone still loves the UK as well. And I think that kind of, that level of respect as well. We know that Amanda, what a star Amanda is, what she's done for women's boxing. And I feel like in this promotion, she got treated like the star she is.
Yes.
She's co-main on a pay-per-view of a big heavyweight fight. She deserved that slot, and she deserved the accolades and the attention she got. And I think she could see that in the UK on this show. She got the respect she deserves. Yeah.
100%. And I think that's why it would make sense if that fight's for undisputed. She's just gained a ton more fans here. So it would make sense for me for it to be in the UK, especially if the Katie rematch is going to be in the UK. Yeah. However, obviously we know Jake Paul sells and he can sell Madison Square Garden, and typically she's co-main at that. But I would love to see that fight in the UK. I really, really would, because there's more money to be made here.
I mean, wouldn't it be great if Jake Paul decides to come over here?
I think he has said, hasn't he? I think if he wants to fight Tommy Fury, which I'm not even going into, but it has to be in the UK. Yeah. So, I feel like something's happening. I don't think it was just a random, thing that she fought in Manchester. There's obviously a plan behind it all. But yeah, fingers crossed that we can see Amanda become undisputed, because I think she beats Erica.
Yeah.
She lives out a dream of being undisputed. And I think she will rematch Katie Taylor.
Yeah.
And that would be huge. And that will be in the UK, I think, this time around as well.
Yeah.
So we will see. But yeah, looking forward to that. So they were all the fights. Obviously, you said before, out of all the four, your favourite was Terri and Hannah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That performance, was outstanding from Terri. Yeah. And I'm going to have to go back and watch that again, because I was just like loving loving that fight. It was great. Those first few rounds were just like phenomenal.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. That was my favourite fight of the night, but I have only seen the highlights of 2, so I need to sort myself out and watch the full fights. Since we were last on, more fights have been announced. So the return of Shannon Courtney.
Yes,
I'm very happy for her.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
It's a bantamweight.
Is it?
Yes, because I double checked. It's on BoxRec at bantamweight. So whether, we all know BoxRec does get stuff wrong. But as far as I'm aware, it's a bantamweight.
That was one of my things. I didn't know what weight it would be at, and I did not think it would be at bantamweight.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check this again now, and I feel like, I got that wrong.
No, it's probably likely it's at. I mean, we know Gemma fights at bantam.
Yeah, I did double check, and obviously we know that Shannon obviously wants to establish herself back at bantamweight.
Just still not convinced by it. I'm never convinced. I like Shannon Courtney a lot. I love her story. I'm probably one of the only people who like her, and I don't want to see her at bantam. I just think it's too much of a struggle. I just don't get the need to struggle. Plus, the fight I want to see in 12 months is Shannon Courtney, Ellie Scottney for world title.
Yeah,
they don't like each other, and there's a good narrative there. But
yeah,
I don't get the bantamweight thing. And if she's just chasing the rematch, I think that's a poor decision on everyone's part. Because again, it's a thing of you got to right your wrong. It doesn't matter. You got beat to Jamie Mitchell. We know she's had 2 surgeries since. It wasn't her best night. If you never fight Jamie Mitchell again, it really doesn't matter. I think if that was the reason she was going back, I think it's strange. But yeah, well, I don't particularly want to see her back at bantamweight. I'm glad she's back. I think it's been nearly 12 months by the time she gets out.
It's been a long time for her, but I think it's great opponent to come back to.
Gemma, solid opponent. Yeah. We say all the time she wins in her own right. She's caused some upsets. She's went as the B-side and won, which was not the plan. I'm sure the promoters were like, "What are you doing?" But good on her. Yeah, Gemma's a solid opponent. I like her when I watch her. I know Beck Connolly initially put out on Twitter that she'd quite like the fight. I know Beck's been sparring with Shannon. And Beck and Gemma are friends, so she's got herself in a little triangle there. But yeah, it's a very good fight to come back to. I think it's probably a better fight than I thought she would come back to. If I'm honest, I thought, because I rate Gemma for what she does in boxing. I think she's at a good level for it. So it's a good fight for sure. Be interesting to see how many rounds she wants to come back to.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how many rounds it's down for.
I reckon 8, but I'm not sure. I'm just guessing, obviously.
Yeah, so yeah, it'd be a very, very good fight. Because we all want to know just what Shannon we're going to get, because we've had so many different versions of Shannon. I'd say the best version of Shannon we ever saw was against Ebony Bridges.
Yeah.
And then obviously the worst was the following fight against Mitchell. But when Shannon isn't injured, her head's in the right place, she's fully trained, focused, she's a great fighter, but she's knowing what shot to get on the night.
I think that's the thing. I rate Shannon, I really do, and I like her, and I think with the right people around her, she could be very, very good.
Yeah.
But I always get that feeling that that's the issue sometimes, but I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, but I've always just got this thing. I remember we spoke about it and you said about she was at her best for that Ebony fight, and she lived, she was living in that dingy travel lodge, God love her, 6 days a week. And that's the dedication you need when you isolate yourself from it all. And that seemed the best version of her mentally and physically.
Yeah. Yeah. She was mentally right. It was right that fight.
Yeah. I'm just sure, I just don't like the bantamweight thing. She's missed weight 3 times. One of them, I buy her excuse. I was, again, the only person got slated for that on Twitter. Wouldn't do that again, not brave enough. But I bought that excuse, to be fair. But it's 3 times she's missed weight. She's now coming back off a long layoff. I think, as you get older, I'm not saying she's dead old. I think she's about my age, I think. Yeah. So I don't know. I just don't buy it at all. I don't like it. I would be more excited if she was coming back as Super Bantam.
Yeah. And also, how many times fighters lately that when they've been struggling to make weight, how miserable they were.
Yeah.
So therefore, if she is struggling, would it make sense to come up at a higher weight and be a bit happier, and then mentally be a bit better as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because she's been quite honest about her mental battles as well, mental health battles. And I know, you know, I spoke to Terri Harper as well. She said, like, this is the first camp that Terri Harper's enjoyed because it's now about the boxing, whereas it used to just be so stressed about the food and what she can and can't eat type thing. That you think, I don't know why they do it to themselves sometimes. Like, I know you've got to cut weight and it's not nice, but when you're cutting to such extremes, mentally, you're just adding more problems, I think. But I don't know. Well, I suppose we will see. This will tell a lot. It's always interesting when Shannon gets on the scales because of the fact that she's missed weight. So I think that'll be interesting if it is bantamweight. Let's say she wins this fight because we're going to expect her to win.
Yeah.
Does she fight Jamie Mitchell next?
Depends on how good. If she came out amazing, out Gemma, then possibly. But if it's just, you know, looks great, sort of points, average kind of performance, then I'd say probably another fight or two.
I agree, but I think the issue she's got, if she's caught up on wanting to rematch Jamie Mitchell, that's the aim, is that I want to get my belt back off the girl who took it from me. You've got to get in there before Jamie loses it. And I'm not saying Jamie's going to lose it, but Jamie's only defended it once against Carly Skelly. I like Carly Skelly, but she's not world level. She's probably European level. And that's all she's defending. And she's going to, and that's not down to Jamie Mitchell, because I know we think it's her anyway, who's been quite outspoken about not fighting. I know Brian Cohen was outspoken about the fact that she's not, Matchroom haven't stuck to the contract and the agreement of how many fights she's getting. So she's going to have to take some big fights soon. So I think if Shannon's caught up on that, it'd have to be the fight directly after.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, because otherwise it's messing it out.
But don't get caught up on it, though. I always, like, if she never, like, I'm not a big fan of the Ebony Bridges Shannon Courtney rematch, and the fight was epic. But I always say I'm not interested in that rematch at the moment, because you're just doing it for the sake of doing it. It doesn't. There's no reason to do it apart from the fact that I know it was a great fight, but for careers, it makes no sense for either of them. And for Shannon's career at the minute, it doesn't make any sense to rematch Jamie Mitchell, in my opinion.
I mean, Ebony said that there's no point in rematching. She's not got a belt because, you know,
it's true though, isn't it?
Unify, so therefore her aim is to go for after the champions.
Yeah, 100%. Let's quickly talk about Ebony Bridges. I've not wrote her name down, but it's fine. So she's Shannon O'Connell.
Yeah.
So Ebony, when did Ebony win? Was it May when she won her world title? April.
Was it April? March, sorry. March, end of March.
So we're many months on. Obviously, Ebony was, I think she'd come out and said she was supposed to be fighting Saturday, just gone on the Nottingham show against her like voluntary defence. Don't know who that opponent was supposed to be. So she's in a very frustrating position because by time she possibly gets around to fighting, I know it's been rumoured online that she's going to fight on the Josh Warrington card, even though I didn't think she would. I thought she'd be announced on Katie Taylor, and then I said that, and everyone laughed at me, and she wasn't announced on Katie Taylor. So they were right. But I saw on a couple of people's Twitters yesterday that she's rumoured to be on that one. That's a long gap, isn't it?
It's disappointing, yeah, because she was meant to come out in the summer. That was always the plan. Eddie always said out in the summer. So what's that, June? So July, August, September. You know, we're already 3 months beyond that. And then finally, you know, she was meant to be on this card. And then obviously then the IBF decided they were going to come down hard on a mandatory, which they don't do for anyone, and just suddenly decide it for one fighter. And it's just unfortunately scuppered that, which means it's difficult because, yes, we've discussed mandatories before, how it'd be great if mandatories were enforced, but it needs to be across the board. But just to suddenly enforce it at this point, when a fight is meant to be fighting anyway, that delays it even more. You know, the IBF have just then gone, basically have have lengthened that time to defend. You know, it's just by enforcing that, you know, it's kind of
silly because by time they get out and fight, let's say it is December on the Warrington card, that looks the most likely when you look at all the cards that are coming up. She could have had the fight in September and then done that fight in December. That's what makes no sense to me. If she was on the Katie card in October, you go, right, fair enough, that makes sense to pull the September fight.
Yeah.
But there's no logic behind it when she's waiting so long anyway. You know, she could have got out on Saturday and she could have happily, I'm sure she would have happily fought again in December.
And you think winning world titles opens doors. Instead, it's been more of a hindrance.
Well, I saw Ebony Bridges. I don't know if it was on Twitter or Instagram. She put you, similar to what you've just said, like you think you're world champion and you kind of get to call the shots. And she was like, that's just not the case at all. And it's just so political and it's not consistent. That's what baffles me. I'm a fan of mandatories to a degree. Like I think everyone should get their opportunity. You know, but the problem is if fighters are only getting out twice a year, that's when you don't want to see mandatories.
Yeah.
Because they're not great fights typically. If they're getting out 4 times a year, I want to see mandatories and then I want to see, you know, 2 big selling fights. So frustrating. Point being though is, let's say Ebony comes through in December against Shannon O'Connell and Shannon Courtney challenges maybe Jamie Mitchell and wins, then do you think we would see that fight then if it's a unification fight?
Yeah, I mean that's going to happen, isn't it? It's unification, but it just depends on the politics of it all again, doesn't it? Because if you think they're both matchroom fighters, does Eddie want to see them fight straight away? Does he want
this
to?
Is the thing.
Because then he suddenly goes from having his 2 fighters having belts to then, you know, just having one with the 2 belts. I think it would make more money, more sense to get them to fight other people and then come together in a bigger fight. But who knows? Again, it's politics, I'd say, because both fighters want to fight each other. At the end of the day, it's usually the fighters that want to fight. When everyone says, "Oh, they're ducking,"
Yeah,
motors, not the actual fighters.
100%. See, that's the thing now. People go, well, they're both signed to the same company. It'll be easy. It's harder, I think, sometimes. Eddie Hearn can make more money, like you've just said, individually off them as world champions than them fighting early on and only having one of them as world champion.
Yeah.
So that fight might not even happen because of that situation. So it's all very interesting, but we'll see. It's all kind of based on, obviously, Shannon's out first out of the 2 of them and see her come back. But I'm very happy that she's back out because it's been a long year for her. Someone else who has been announced on the same card, Chloe Watson.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Chloe to come back out. We like Chloe.
Yeah, after she had that great night, didn't she, where she was the star of the...
Thank God she saved the show.
and everyone was raving about her. I mean, yeah, I can't wait to see her come back out. You know, Hitman as her coach, you know, he's obviously doing a great job with her. Can't wait, yeah.
Yeah. She literally saved the show that night, didn't she? Because it was pretty diabolical in all fairness, I think. And it's always like a weird format, wasn't it? I think she come out after the main event, very stressful. I never know who's fighting where and what, but great performance. She's super exciting to watch. I'm really excited. I can't actually remember who she's fighting, but I think she's got an opponent. I think.
I don't remember,
but you know, she's at the very early stages of her career, isn't she?
Yeah.
And it's all about her showing who she is and what she's capable of. And it's entertaining. It's fun to watch, pleasing to the eye. And the last time she was out, she gained loads of new fans. So I hope she does the same again on another big platform.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, can't wait for that one, actually. It's going to be good.
Yeah. I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah.
This has been rumoured for a while. I feel like I should get a percentage of this fight. When Ellie won her last fight, this is the fight I'd like to see Ellie Scottney fight Mary Romero. I wasn't the only person who said that, but I'm going to pretend I was. It was the obvious fight. I like Mary Romero because she causes problems. Like, she's not easy at all. She's a good fighter in her own right, isn't she?
Yeah. Mary's getting a bit of a following of her own, really. And especially after that last fight where she got purposely headbutted.
It's just outrageous.
You know what I mean? But yeah, she gave Amy Timlin major problems. Just her style, the way that she just comes forward relentlessly.
She's strong as well, isn't she?
Yeah. And like I said, that crazy last fight. I think Ellie's going to have her hands full with this one. She can't, you know, it's. I do see Ellie Scotney winning, but Mary will not make it easy.
Not at all. Not at all. Mary goes to win, doesn't she? She's got a point to prove. Like, you know, everyone thought Amy Timlin would win, and in all fairness, she dominated Amy Timlin. Amy Timlin and Ellie Scotney are a completely different caliber. I think Amy's very young and was pushed in the deep end far too quick, twice. I think Amy Timlin's being poorly managed, in my opinion. So obviously she's off rebuilding. Ellie Scotney, the very different fighters. Who did Ellie fight last? I can't even remember.
Oh, it was Roman.
Yes. And I thought that would be a close fight. And Ellie proved me wrong, because I think from that Guanini fight, Ellie just improved so much. And she kind of went back to the Ellie that we knew the first couple of fights, where she utilized her jab. Ellie's got an unbelievable jab that sets up everything else. And I feel like she lost that when she started with Shane McGuigan, not only because they're implementing other things. And obviously when you're doing new things, some other things get lost. So I feel like it's starting to all really piece together nicely. And I feel like it fell into place. So I feel like, Mary's going to make this a difficult night, but Ellie's going to be ready for it.
Yeah.
And possibly dominate. But that's only because I'm putting Ellie up there where I think she's very close to being ready for a world title. So she's going to have to dominate if she's wanted. Because I know Eddie said, you know, she's 1 or 2 fights away from world level. She has to dominate Mary to be at that level. But I think she can. Because, I loved how she utilized the jab in the last fight to keep the distance. But then when she wanted to, she closed and just like unleashes these combos. She moved up and down the body. Very, very exciting, Ellie. Again, she's got a great fan base, and she's going to do very well. But I think she'll be someone else who fluctuates between the weights as well, I think, in the future.
With Mary, because she does like coming forward and getting in people's faces and is very strong, I do find that's where Ellie in the past has not looked so comfortable on the inside. Someone's pressuring her. But like you said, so good fights. See how she copes with that.
Yeah, that was Ellie's downside against Guanini, was on the inside, and Guanini kind of used her experience on. It wasn't necessarily the strength, but it was the experience of how to use her body that I thought Ellie didn't like, and you know, she was getting roughed up, and I think she got frustrated at times, because I think Ellie got a point deduction, if I'm remembering correctly, in that fight.
Yeah, possibly.
But I think at times she got a bit frustrated. I thought she learned a lot though the next fight. So it'll be interesting. I think she will dominate though, which is, if she does, I think that's huge, because this is a big step up, Mary Romero, and it's for a title, I think, isn't it? The European title.
Mary's got a European title.
So exciting times. But like I say, this will be a telltale of where Ellie goes next. And, you know, she might get another fight. I don't know if she'll get one by the end of the year, but maybe the beginning of next year. And then she could be a world champion in 12 months' time. Less than 12 months.
Yeah. Which, I see. You know,
I do. I think probably this fight and one more, and then she could challenge.
Yeah.
Depending, obviously, on the performance. But I think she'll win comfortably. Someone else who won comfortably, and I've got slightly mixed opinions on it. So we had Chris Cyborg, who made her boxing debut.
Yeah.
Remind me, Susie, what weight did Chris Cyborg fight at this weekend?
Middleweight.
Okay.
Yeah. Which sounds very heavy, considering there's rumours of her fighting Taylor.
That's just what I do not get. So I just presumed, right, Chris Cyborg's making a pro debut. You know, Eddie's talking about this crossover fight with either Holly Holm or Chris Cyborg. I've heard from a couple of people now that Holly Holm can't do it because she's got ties to Dana White. But I don't really I don't really get it all, but I've heard that from 3 different people now. So I'm starting to think there's truth in it because they're like individual people. So I don't know. So I was like, well, it's going to be Chris Cyborg next. But how can it be with that weight difference? So now I'm even more baffled.
Yeah, I mean, is it going to be a catch weight? Who knows? But then I can't be doing that. At this point in a career where she's just having career defining type fights, you know, sort of top fights, to suddenly go for a crazy different weight, it wouldn't make sense, would it really?
Katie Taylor's never had any you know, I know Clarissa Shields years ago said about a catchweight fight, and Katie Taylor laughed and said, we're just different weights, like we will never fight. And Katie Taylor would never go above super lightweight, ever.
Would know.
So I just don't get it.
Go right down to lightweight, really.
Yeah. Now, take away the weight, because I don't know whether Chris could make lightweight. I don't know. I'm presuming she could if it's in discussions. Based on what did you watch any of the Chris Cyborg fights?
I haven't. I've seen a couple of highlights, but I haven't seen the full fight.
Does it excite you? Because we're not the most excited, are we, about a crossover fight? Are you more excited now that you've seen some highlights?
Not get, you know, it's her first fight, isn't it? She won by unanimous decision. She won pretty comfortably, I believe. Yeah, no, I mean,
yeah, nope.
I'm
talking about Katie Taylor. We're not talking about Chris against someone else. We're talking about Chris Cyborg against Katie Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, what excites me is the fact that she is an exceptional MMA fighter. You know, it's always exciting to think, well, she's just this legendary fighter. I think she was saying how this year she's been nominated for Fighter of the Year of MMA, and then suddenly now she's in boxing as well. It's always exciting to see these crossovers. However, you know, she isn't a boxer. And, you know, you're watching this debut and, you know, you can tell she hasn't got the skill level, you know, because she's not been doing it. She's been doing MMA.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's slightly interesting. It's nice to have another fighter perhaps around middleweight. But in terms of a massive fight with Katie, yeah, I'm not really that interested because it doesn't show anything. It doesn't prove it.
Yeah. It is what it is, doesn't it? I mean, I love Chris Cyborg, what she's done in MMA, and I love watching her in MMA. She's probably one of the toughest human beings to enter the cage. So just like keep it like that. I mean, and I get people want a new challenge, and I think that's fine. And, you know, because we see lots of boxers cross over to MMA because they want that challenge and they want to be more active and all of that. You know, Amanda Serrano, Heather Hardy, Clarissa Shields, just obviously to name a few. Like, if she wants a new challenge, I'm all for that. But like, so just in your own way, do you know what I mean? We don't see these girls like Clarissa Shields didn't turn over and then fight Chris Cyborg in a second fight because that'd just be bizarre. But that's the equivalent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of Chris Cyborg turning over and then in a handful of fights facing Katie Taylor. It just doesn't, there's no logic to me.
It's like they think it's going to be easy because it's just one discipline.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they think, oh, well, I'm an MMA fighter doing a lot. This is just using your hand. But they don't realise how skilled boxing is, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, just, I'm still not feeling it. But she made the debut. She won. I don't know if she's got plans. Presuming she's got plans to come back out soon. But, you know.
Yeah, I would have thought so. But she's, you know, she's so keen. The promotion around this has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Whoever the team are, she's obviously taking it very seriously and she's got these plans that she really wants to go ahead with in boxing because I think everybody got a DM from her account when they promote that fight.
Yeah.
Wow.
Weekly.
Yeah. I say that, you know, the plan is there, pushing hard for it. So it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to follow her career if it was like a legit career. The only way I'd want to see a crossover fight is if Katie Taylor's got no other options, but that's not going to be the case. Katie's got, I think we've only got 12 more months of Katie Taylor, and I think she'll retire because I think she's done everything. There's just no need for her to do anymore. So if she wanted to end her career on like a crossover fight to just make a ton of money, maybe, but I don't know. I think as long as we see the Amanda Serrano rematch, and I think she's still got another big fight, I think it could be Pursuing 3. I don't think we'll ever see Katie Taylor, Chantel Cameron.
No, probably
Ever.
not. You know, I can't see Katie going for Pursuit again.
I don't know why anyone wants to get in the ring with Pursuit. She's a nightmare. I love watching her. She's an absolute nightmare. But
what a crazy couple of fights you had with her. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'd like to see it as a fan, but
yeah,
being Katie, why? Why would you want to do that to yourself?
why would you want to do that? Yeah, but I think we've got more chance of seeing that than Chantel Cameron.
Probably.
I actually think it could go. Katie will have a next fight, and then I think we'll get the Serrano rematch, and then Pursuing 3, and then retire. Oh no, and then like probably Chris Cyborg or something, and then retire.
But to be fair, I'd rather Pursue 3 than Cyborg.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah, definitely. But yeah, so they've been announced. I think that was kind of it. Though just didn't, because there was just so much with the fights. Not been a lot of drama. It's all been quite calm this week, I feel.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else that's been going on.
No. Boxing this weekend. You've not done the schedule just yet, have you? But anything coming up? Off the top of your head?
I can't think of anything. I'm sure there is something going on once I've done the schedule.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's huge. It's on the top of my head that
The following week, which is I think October 8th, we've got the Unified Promotions. That's correct, I think.
Yes, so that'll be 7th of October,
Friday night.
Yeah.
And then I feel like there was boxing on the 8th, which is Conor Benn, Chris Eubank, and obviously the undercard with that. So quite a lot coming up in October.
Yeah.
October, November, December. Some big nights ahead. And then hopefully some getting ready for next year then.
And obviously the build-up's going to be again for the all-female Mega Clash.
October 15th.
So I feel like that will start building next sort of week or two as well.
I'm interested to see how they do that build-up, whether they kind of pick up where they left off, have like restart. Like I'm quite interested to that because they got all the way through it, didn't they, basically? You know, are they going to do a public workout again on a boat? Probably not, because it'll be freezing. But, you know, yeah, I'm interested to see how they pick that all up. I'm just thinking like more financially as well. Like how much do you invest in that build-up week?
Yeah.
When they've kind of done it already. However, the press conference will be even better this time. So I hope they do it.
I love that press conference. I can't wait. I can't wait for that one.
Yeah. So, but October actually is stacked when we think about it. There's loads of fights, the 7th, the 8th, and the following week. I think there's loads of cards actually, and then loads of small hall cards as well towards the end of October.
Yeah, because we've got Stevie Levy in the Doncaster Dome at the end of the month.
Nicola's on that card.
Yeah, and Nicola Hopewell's been at that for a second pro fight. Exciting.
Yeah, she's got out nice and quick, which is good. So I think October's actually quite stacked, which is exciting.
Yeah,
as always. Right. Well, let's see if any drama unfolds this week. I feel like something's going to happen.
I'm thinking, has there been any Twitter beef recently we could discuss? But
well, Chantel Cameron, Jessica McCaskill, when's that fight happening? That's got to be coming up soon.
Yeah, the 5th November.
So there's going to be some drama there, surely.
Yeah, you think so.
Rick Ramos is not going to be chill, is he, leading into that?
No, he likes a bit of me. Just stirring. Blab before. I seem to remember some major stuff going down, being posted up from down between DMs between both. In the past.
Rick Ramos and Jessica McCaskill always cause murder. Yeah. So there's always drama. So I feel like that's got to start brewing now that they're getting closer to that one as well, with that being in a few weeks' time. So all exciting. Always a pleasure. And we'll be back next week.
Yes, definitely.
See you all next week.
Bye.